Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Backstage Bikini podcast. I am your host, Jade.
And I'm your host, Grace.
And today we've got a very, very special guest on. Myself and Grace, it's ironic, really. We were talking about having this particular guest on before her season ended, but we now have the newly crowned IFBB Pro, Bikini Pro, Phoebe Goodwin on the podcast. Do you want to introduce yourself, Phoebe?
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It seems weird and I don't think it's quite sunk in yet announcing me as an IFBB Pro, but we are here. So I'm here to tell my story to you all.
We are absolutely buzzing to have Phoebe on. She's somebody that I've admired in the industry for so long. I was just saying before we started this podcast, I went to Phoebe's figure and NABA show. I think it was in 2018 and
2017, I think.
17. And I was just getting into bodybuilding. I went with my coach at the time and I was in awe. And I remember you just stood out so much with the blonde hair and everything. And I've been following you ever since. So I suppose we want to start from the very beginning, Phoebe, before we get to where you are now.
Yeah.
Tell us what got you into competing, why figure, and how the transition went from there to bikini.
So to be honest, I never actually thought I'd compete. I think it started because I got with Nathan. So those of you that don't know, Nathan is also a bodybuilder, my other half. So we got together and he said to me, I'm not going to compete this year because I think it will put too much pressure on our relationship, being in the honeymoon period, etc. And I was like, I'll just do it with you. Like, it can't be that hard. So off I went and started my first ever prep. So I got a coach and I had no idea what kind of class to do. I didn't know anything about posing, nothing about any kind of federation. Went to see him, got into like my underwear, had a look at me and he was like, right, do some poses. And I was like, I don't know what you mean. So anyway, I then got a posing coach, learned how to pose, and I did the NABA England show that Grace was talking about as my first show. But because I didn't know anything about competing, I was like, I don't really want to put pressure on myself to like win or anything. I just really want to place. And I actually placed sixth, didn't I, Grace?
Yeah, you did really, really well.
Yeah, it
I
was
didn't know it was your first show.
yeah, it was my first show. It was a big, strong lineup. And I was actually poorly on that day. I was sick in the morning, like 3 times. But
Crazy.
I don't know if that was a hangover because it was the white wine protocol the night before.
Of course, of course.
I've never had that. I feel like I've missed out.
Had a booming headache and I was sick. And my coach was like, are you nervous? And I was like, I think I'm hungover.
That's brilliant.
Oh God, love it.
So that was obviously NABA England, that was toned figure. The reason I thought to do toned figure is because I was a dancer. So in toned figure, you do the routine and you have quite a lot more poses. So I thought, oh, well, if I've not got the muscle or the physique, then hopefully I can work my way up the ladder by presenting myself and kind of standing out for posing reasons and performance reasons rather than she's got the best physique on stage. I think that's why I placed because it was a really tough lineup. I think there was about 16 girls and there was muscular. Like I was tiny then. I think I was about 130 pounds, which like for me being as tall as I am, which is quite small. So I was small. And then I was doing a PCA show a few weeks after that in toned figure as well. But I also thought to Nathan, why don't I try a different class? So the following week, I did junior bikini. So I
Okay.
actually went and had a posing session on the Friday. So I competed on the Sunday, had a posing session on the Friday, learned how to do junior bikini, and competed on the Sunday in junior bikini.
That's brilliant.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
Because
I got a British final invite as well. And I had handprints on my bum from Nathan tanning me because he put dream tan on me. And bikini, you're not supposed to have dream tan or be that brown. But so I got a few pointers on the tan from Jordan Peters. Said, don't let Nathan do your tan ever again.
hasn't done it since.
Amazing.
No,
Literally.
definitely not.
And so that's amazing. Because I remember when you were doing figure, I thought you had a lot. I thought you had a lot of size. I was obviously new to it, but I was like, wow, you've a lot of tissue. So then you transitioned into junior bikini,
Yeah.
and from there, where did you go? I suppose did you do any other federations before you went into the IFBB?
Yeah, so well, the week after I did the junior bikini, I did figure again because so both of those was PCA. So I actually qualified in junior bikini and in toned figure for the British finals, which wasn't until the following October. So it was like a full year. I think it was the first qualifier for the kind of British finals. So I had these two qualifications, and I was like, I've only just started. Like, I didn't expect this. And Nathan also qualified, but he was like, I'm not going to compete because I think they moved him up to class one and he was only novice. So he was like, I'm not going to. I was like, I think I'm going to do it. So I actually went into my first real off season after that, and I chose toned figure just because of being able to do the routine. So I put some tissue on, and I think it was the year after that where I was probably the most heavily muscled when I did the toned figure, and I did PCA British finals, and I got an invite to PCA Worlds, and I also did NABBA England again and got an invite to NABBA Universe and placed at both the Worlds and the Universe in toned figure. So it was a really successful season in toned figure, and I did love it. But then I started working with Kuba, and then that's when he was like, I think we should have a look at a different federation. And it was when like the two bros had recently just started and it was getting more and more popular. So I was like, okay. And then I was like, I'm not going to be big enough to compete against these figure girls. I would have needed to take probably 2 years off. And I wanted to compete that year. So it was 2020, the COVID year. So Cuba said, why don't you try bikini? So I was like, okay. So I started learning the bikini poses. I didn't expect anything because I was going into a new federation, new posing, didn't really know anything about the criteria. And then I won my first pro qualifier, and I was like, oh God. So that was COVID year 2020. So there weren't really many shows on, but we managed to get to a few international places. So I did Alicante in 2020, and I also did Romania in 2020. So that was my first year in NPC bikini. And then because like I placed okay, I wasn't going in to get a pro card, but I kind of then knew where I stood, and I thought, right, I'm placing in these shows. Maybe that needs to be my goal. So then the following year, 2021, I kind of solidified, right, I want to try and achieve my pro card, whether it's going to be this year, the following year, 5 years time, like that's what I want to do. So that's when I set the goal, and just started working towards it then.
That's incredible.
It's insane. I mean, you talk about it there, Phoebe, like sort of deciding that it was something that you wanted in 2021. Was there anything sort of like in the process that you changed the minute you made that decision, or was it just a case, because you've sort of said it was a case of whenever it happened, but was there something that switched inside you that you thought, no, this is what I want, this is what I have to do?
Do you know what? As funny as this sounds, I think that COVID made me more determined. So even though this was the year prior to wanting to like achieve my pro card and go for that, I think it made me want to be an athlete because before that, I would meet my friends, we'd go for a party, we'd go out, and then all of this stopped, and it was like, right, I can either be a bum because I basically lost my job. So me and Nathan was both PT and we both lost that. So then we was like, right, let's go for the online. So we did that, and then I was like, right, well, I think we need to push that, and we both want to be athletes. So that just helped us. And ever since then, we've learned how to say no to things, and we've kind of solidified our path in what we want to do. And I think from that point, we've just got better and better as athletes, being on stage, on prep, and off. So I think that's just kind of what's kind of flipped, really.
Changed. And it almost sounds like you say, it almost sounds like a mindset change.
Yes.
It'd have to be, surely.
100%, 100%. And I think also like changing my environment and like changing gyms, things like that. I think that plays a huge role in where you kind of push towards, and the people around you as well. I think that that has a huge impact on kind of your goals and whether you want to still keep pushing towards them or not.
Mm-hmm. I think what one thing that I've noticed so much by following you over the years, Phoebe, is how much you've just been acting like a pro before you ever got the pro card. And I know you hear it all of the time from other people, but people like pro card is thrown around all the time these days, and people's actions aren't really lining up to that. And I think
Yeah.
that's why people fall in love with you as an athlete, Phoebe, is because you've just been living the sport for so long, and you've been what's the word, a really good mascot for the sport, I suppose.
Oh, yes.
And you give you inspire a lot of amateurs, I know, in what they do, you know, and that, you know, you can be just as committed to the process as these kind of pro athletes are. And when you do, the results will come, you know.
Yeah.
um so that's what I kind of love, and I'm sure a lot of people are the same as well.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, and I think I've kind of had that drilled into my brain, as well. Like from when I was working with Cuba, like he always used to say to me, "If you want to be a pro, you've got to act like a pro." He's like, "Oh, but I'm not a pro," and then I was like, "But I do want to be a pro, and like this is my life now." So like, I didn't feel like I was acting like a pro as such. I just kind of felt like I was acting like an athlete, but also not letting it consume me. Like I still have my own life and I still enjoy other things, but I'm still like a full-time athlete, whether I've got the pro status or not got the pro status. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just whatever you enjoy really. But I definitely think
Absolutely.
acting like it does help.
For sure. And come here, I want to go back to, I suppose, the transition from figure to bikini, because you said it was something that you weren't, I suppose your coach at the time, Cuba, had said it. Did you have any aspirations to go down the IFBB bikini route when you started competing? Did you like bikini? Did you kind of like look up to bikini athletes, or where was your head at back then?
Well, I would say that I didn't really want to get any bigger in for the figure. So like I was toned figure, virgin athletic figure. So and I knew I didn't want to push it and put any more tissue on. And then I looked into the IFBB figure girls and I was like, I don't really look anything like those because at the time like my physique wasn't really like those. They had really big glutes and stuff, and I was like, but then I thought I really wanted to look like a muscly Victoria's Secret model. So I was like, if we change the training and we change our methods and change our protocol, you can do anything that you want to do and you can look however you want to look. So why not? So I just thought, yeah, let's go for it.
I love that. The muscly Victoria's Secret model. I think that's the
Yeah.
best way to describe bikini.
Yeah, it really is.
Literally, literally. But in terms of like sort of obviously now you are more embedded into bikini, has there been any role models, for want of a better word? Has that obviously interest developed over the years? I suspect. Like,
Yeah.
where are your role models in the sport now?
Well, I would say I always look up to the taller girls just
Mm.
because I am tall, and as much as some of the shorter girls are fantastic, like you can't relate to them as much. So I look up to Phoebe Hagen because I just think she's a phenomenal bikini athlete, and she's just so down to earth, and she always wants other people to do well. And she was actually helping me like leading into the last show. She was really, really kind, really helpful for me. So I appreciate that. And also Laura Lee. I just love Laura Lee. Love her.
It's the
Mhm.
glutes.
It's
It's
her
the glutes for
glutes,
me.
and she gets nice and lean as well. Like, and I just love
Yeah.
it.
She
Yeah,
definitely kind of pushes the boundaries, I feel, with bikini in terms of the condition and the size.
yeah,
I do feel like she gets away with a lot,
she
you
does, but I
know, but you
love
bring
it.
that, like, you
Yeah,
sometimes you bring that to kind of amateur level, and it's not the same. Like, you can't have straight quads, you know. A lot of the time, I feel like between amateur and pro, it's really, really hard to judge, you know.
yeah, 100%.
So to tell us a little bit about that as well, because I know you've had your fair share of setbacks with feedback, particularly this year. We've all seen it, you know. You had the highs and then you had the lows and mixed messages and stuff. So I suppose tell us a little bit about that, because I'm sure it was frustrating a lot of the time.
Yeah, well, as much as it's frustrating, like you have to take everything with a pinch of salt because everybody's opinions are different and it's always going to be subjective. And whether you place first or last, it can solely depend on your lineup, depend on the judging panel, depend how many athletes are, how big the show is. And I've just learned that over the years of just kind of being in different shows and just watching different girls place differently at the different shows. And just I've just kind of picked up on that. So I think rather than letting it affect you and thinking, right, I've placed last, that means like say if there's 5 athletes, I placed last, that means I'm the worst. Really, I might not be the worst athlete. It's just that what that judge wants on the day. So you just take it with a pinch of salt and you just have to come back and keep turning up. But shall we go from the start of this year?
Go from actually, I want to go back to because you said 2021 was the year that you were like, okay, I'm chasing the pro grad. And I really remember your 2021 season. So it reminded me a lot of my season this year in terms of coming second and third. And I spoke about this before, though second and third, it's great, but it also ate me up inside because I'm like you, I'm competitive and you want to get that first. So it's like, you're so close, but you're not close enough yet. So tell us back then kind of how you felt with those placing and your feedback back then in 2021.
So 2021, the first show was the regional. So I placed second in that and got the feedback that they was going for a softer look, which is absolutely fine. But then I had feedback that I needed to be leaner. So depending on whether you're doing like a regional or a pro qualifier, and depending on which pro qualifier it is, depends on the condition and the hardness that you need to take as well. So you have to kind of gauge it. But I knew that I needed to be leaner anyway. So like I don't mind any of my placings because it's benefited me that I didn't win and I didn't place because now I'm better and I've won and I've got my pro card. So now I look better. So they did me a favour really. But then I did the first pro qualifier. In fact, no, I didn't. Did the regional and then I had 4 weeks until the Arnold. But I knew I needed to be leaner myself. I knew that my legs needed to be sharper and I needed to be a little bit tighter and a bit drier. But Cuba didn't think I needed to be leaner. So I booked to go to Norway just spontaneously because I knew there was an American judge. And I thought to myself, if I can get some feedback from this American judge, then I'll have 2 weeks to either pull things back down again before the Arnolds. So I did it and I got 5th out of 5. But sometimes when you place 5th, they put you 5th because you either, it's like you can't place 3rd or 4th, if that makes sense, depending on your physique. So you either come 1st or 2nd, like close, or you come 5th. So it was because I didn't quite have the hamstring to glute tighten, but everything else was there. I was 5th. So you just learn from that. You don't think, oh no, I was better than that athlete there, better than that athlete, so I should have got 3rd. No, I just needed that one thing, then it had bumped me up. So I got 5th, and then it was like, right, I need to come in leaner. So we come in leaner. I did the Arnold's. It was a really good showing, to be fair. I think me and Zoe can both agree that I probably won from the front, but she just nailed me from the rear because she's just genetically just got these
just peach
juicy glutes. Yeah.
So they stand on their own.
Yeah. I didn't mind. I was like, yeah, she's won anyway. But I just thought my time will come anyway. And then a few weeks after that, I did Budapest, and I actually placed 3rd. So I was at the time I was a bit like, oh, I think maybe I should have got 2nd, because condition wise, everything like that. Then looking back, I was probably a bit too lean, like in certain places, and probably a bit hard. So yeah, I deserved 3rd anyway because I weren't quite hitting the criteria. And then I knew that I just needed to put some more tissue on my glutes because that was the leanest I'd been. So I could see like true where I needed to put some tissue on. And it weren't going to come on being in the deficit, was it? So I was like, right, I'm done. Need to put some tissue on. And then went into my off season. Then obviously it was this year. This year was a little bit different. So I actually put quite a lot of size on in my off season. I worked really hard, but I think it didn't quite work in the sense that, like you said earlier, sometimes when you are an amateur, you have a slightly different criteria compared to the pros. So you have to kind of work to that and go in looking a certain way for the amateur league rather than for the pro league, which I found out.
Agreed. I think from a size point of view as well, Phoebe, like I'd obviously because of your height as well. And if you put that kind of muscle mass on over that off season, I think you're quite right. Like you can stand out for the wrong reasons almost. Like if you've got to meet that lineup, haven't you? To a degree, you've got to stand out just enough to be first, but not enough to look like odd. You don't belong. Yeah. Like not that you don't belong in the category, but you stick out like a sore thumb. Like so it's a really hard thing to position yourself, especially when you're trying to improve and sort of push towards those pro ranks. So how did it go this year in terms of feedback, sort of show to show?
So to be fair, actually, after the regional, we went in super full. But it worked because I got nice and lean before, and it was my first carb up. Like it was a huge carb up, like massive. But because I was lean and it was the first one, like I responded well and it worked. And I had my feedback from the head judge that you're basically too big for bikini. But you're not. You're suited to the pro league, but you're too big at the moment. So you're going to have judges that are going to love you or they're going to hate you, but I need you to keep going because it will happen. So he like planted the seed in my head that some weren't going to like me, some are going to like me. Don't give up. So he actually judged me at Alicante as well. I really like him. So I kept going and it was just a case of keep turning up. And I think that bikini is very much like trial and error, and you can't keep taking the same look and expect different result. You have to try something different or you're never going to know, and you're never going to get different feedback. It's just going to be the same. So then the following week, because it was the week after it was my first pro qualifier, it was actually a really small show and it was in Austria. So there was 5 girls, but because it was a small show, well, not just because, but they was all smaller, and because it was a small show, there was only A to C. Bearing in mind I'm H, so I was in class C. Yeah, you can only imagine. So I was against girls that was a lot shorter than me, and they didn't have as much tissue, and obviously I was really full as well. And I was probably a bit fuller even so, because it was my second carb up on top of that. And I had some feedback of one of the judges. I've had feedback off her before though, and just didn't think that maybe she was fond of my physique. You get the gauge of what judges aren't a massive fan of your physique. And she said, you need to do figural wellness. So then I was like, okay. And then I thought, if I wanted to do figure, I probably could, but not right now. I'd have to take probably a year off, and I could if I trained like it. Wellness, I'd probably have to take 2 years off, and if I wanted to do it, I could. Like anyone, if you want to change your training, you could do anything. But I think that I'd not quite got it right yet, and I was bikini, so like I knew that wasn't going to affect me. So then the week after that, I had Italy, and Italy was bigger. It wasn't huge, but it was still a big show. Like there was a lot of girls, but not like there was at the Arnold's or anything. And I went in like a bit super saturated, really, because it was my third carb up, and we kind of went in spilled intentionally. So I just looked really big. So when I was in the overall, there was a screen behind me. Obviously, you look at your rear shot. I looked 6 weeks out and I was like, oh my God, I'm huge. Because I'm so tall as well, I just looked massive. And I was like, this is not good. But when I was stood side stage, like I was looking at the other girls, and you can gauge, can't you, on where you're gonna what you're gonna do. And I was like, I'm way too big. Not as in like big muscular, but like I was just big, full, not small and tight, how you should be when you're going on stage. Like normally you just feel tight, don't you? So I was like, this is not my day. But it was fine. I enjoyed it anyway. And Nathan won his pro card, so it was amazing. Yes. Then after that, spoke with Cuba. I didn't bother getting my feedback because I knew, like, I'm not silly. So I messaged Cuba and I was like, we need to change something because we've got to change it now. I need to get leaner and I need to go in smaller. But also back to the regional, I stopped training upper body after the regional. So like that was already 6 weeks of not training upper. So then a bit more. So then, yeah, it needed to be done. Then we had the Arnolds and managed to pull, I think we pulled about £7 off. And it was a good lineup at the Arnolds. So like it was a bigger show and there was more muscular girls. So I placed 5th out of 5, which was really good. Like the girls that placed higher than me was sharper and not across all the classes. Like H probably was one of the kind of sharper classes. Yours has a few sharp girls as well though, Grace. What height are you?
I was G.
G, yes. I think that throughout the taller classes, the girls got leaner, didn't they? And so they was all just leaner than me. So that was the Arnolds, and I got my feedback from the Arnolds, and it was good bikini, good posing, good bikini look. Just need to bring the hams and glutes in more. So I was like, I'm bikini, like I need to keep going, and I just need to try and take what they want and just get that hams and glutes tying. So I had a little bit of a break that week. So I went to France. I was going to compete in France, but a palaver happened. So I had a bit of a de-stress.
Come down.
Come down.
Down. Ground.
Yeah, because basically I got told from someone quite close to me that I would never be a bikini pro. So it hit me hard. So I went to compete.
Understandably.
Yeah, I took my stuff, but then Nathan had a word with me and he was like, I don't think you should compete because I think mentally you might not be there. He was like, as much as you can probably make a little bit of progress in that space of time, he was like, you want to come back with a bang and make quite a lot of progress. It was like, so just have reset. And he'd not really had a downtime from when we finished in Italy anyway, because he won his pro card. We'd not really celebrated because I was still in prep. So I was like, okay, so we just celebrated in France. And then it was back and I was down to business. And I was more determined than ever. Like, I've never been so determined in my whole entire life because I wanted to prove a point. And I knew deep down that if I took something different, that my look would fit because I just had a feeling. So the fire was lit and I just grafted and then I won the pro card.
Honestly, I'm nearly in tears here. Honestly, I'm like, I'm nearly crying. I'm hormonal as it is. And I'm like, Phoebe's story, just honestly, because from the outside looking in, like, it has just been incredible to watch. And like, your determination is just so inspiring, and how you were getting this feedback. And it would have killed most people to be told to be work so hard, and not only that, but to work so hard in your off season to build that muscle, to then be told this, and it would destroy most people. And I know for me, I would just I probably would quit because I just want to give up, you know, after all those shows, show after show. But it was amazing that you said there, like after the last one, that you were that feedback was, you were so close, you know, you knew that you were a bikini and there was something in the back of your head that would have told you to keep going. Do you know, was there any moment that you were like, I'm gonna quit? Or did you always just say, I'm gonna keep going?
I never felt like I was going to quit, but the week before Alicante, that was the first time ever I was in the gym and I felt like I was going to cry. I'm not a crier. Like when that thing happened with the person that was close to me that tried to crush my dreams, I didn't cry. And I just don't really cry and get emotional, but I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like dying. And it was just because I was having to push so hard and I was super lean. So what comes with new condition is new territories, and I felt like death. And I did feel like I would have quit, and then I was like, no, I'm not. Get on them hip thrust machines.
Too close. Too close.
But that was like, to even get a week out from the last show and to have those feeling like, that's incredible, you know.
It's a long season as well, Phoebe.
I started dieting in April.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
come here, tell us, because I had heard Rossa told me that about or you think you posted about your weight loss, like how much you actually lost from the second last show to your pro card win in terms of weight, and what was the difference that you did in that time frame?
So in fact, let me think about the exact weight. So when I got back from Italy, in fact, I'll go from Italy because Italy was my heaviest stage weight. So Italy, I went on stage at 153 pound, but obviously like we spilled, so we went up. So I was probably about 148 pound, and then we carved up and then like spilled a little bit. So it was 153 pounds something. And then I went on stage in Alicante at 138.6. So that was like from that show to that show. But the Arnold's was in between. So the Arnold's was a week after, and that was 146. So I went on stage in Alicante 10 pound lighter, and then I got down to my lowest 10 pound lighter, but then carved up like 2 to 3 pounds.
That's still a hell of a drop though.
Yeah.
I
hold a lot of body fat in my legs, and some bikini girls don't need to get lean, but I have to get absolutely shredded just to get my hams and glutes in. But like my hamstrings were so lean, like, and I had all like you could see everything going into like my calves and everything, and like my glutes. I squeezed my glutes for a picture, and Nathan was like, squeeze them. And they were like striated. I've got striated glutes and my quads were feathered. But if I didn't get like that, I wouldn't have the tie-in. Like I know that it will get better with more muscle, but it's just where I store my body fat. It's just there.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like I'm with my midsection, so for me to try and get all the body fat out of my core, my arms would be like proper veiny, and my feedback was that my upper body was too lean, and I'm like, I can't fill out, because then my midsection will go. So it's really hard to find that balance. But you did eventually. You nailed it, and they loved you in Spain, which was incredible. Tell me about how your training changed in that time frame as well. That's something I wanted to ask. So you said you stopped training upper body 6 weeks before. So what about the lower body?
So I stopped training upper after the regional. So the regional was at the end of April. So then upper got pulled, and I just went to 3 lower sessions. So they was like just my standard 3 leg sessions that they were mainly glutes, but I was still lifting heavy. So I was still doing like heavy RDLs, heavy leg press, and just keeping everything full. But by keeping everything full, it weren't just keeping my glutes full. Like my quads was full, everything was full. So that's probably why that lady said you need to do wellness, like one of the judges, because my lower half was just full and they was carved up. So that was something that I thought may need to change. So after Italy, I started implementing cardio. So I was on the stepper. So that went in before the Arnold's. And I also pulled all of like my compound leg press, like anything heavy that was pressing. The only thing I did like moderately heavy was RDLs. And I also changed my volume as well. So rather than doing like a top set back off, I changed to 3 to 4 working sets. And that stayed in right up until Alicante, because I needed the volume to keep my glutes full, but I was having to push hard that I needed to make sure I was recovering. So I couldn't lift heavy and do the volume, but also I needed my legs to shrink. So I didn't just need to bring the condition. I needed to lose a bit of size off my legs to make my glutes look bigger. So stop training them heavy.
It's crazy. It's actually crazy. It's crazy what can be achieved in that time frame.
Yeah,
with these manipulations.
Yeah. I knew what I needed to do, and I was just like, it's just got to be done. And if I didn't try it, then I wouldn't know. I mean, that's not going to work for everyone, because like most of the time you're trying to retain all of your muscle that you've just worked so hard to build. But it was a very different scenario, which is why I had to change things. But yeah,
It's
No,
crazy.
it's incredible. And like you said, Grace, like to do that in such a short space of time, Phoebe. And I think what's amazing to hear as well is that I know throughout my journey as well, I can feel a little bit uncertain. The fact that you had all of this in your mind, you knew in your heart and in your mind that you knew what you had to do, you knew what you had to bring, you knew your body well enough, and you just trusted that instinct. So how did it feel when all of that paid off? Like having put that sort of trust in yourself.
It was really, I don't know
Sorry.
the exact
Hard question.
Yeah,
Has it even sank in yet?
no. You know what
No.
though, I had so many people in my corner that was so supportive, and I changed my mindset even before. Like when I got to Alicante, when I registered, I had a different face on. Like I was still over like so friendly talking to people, but I was there to compete and I was there to win. Like I had game face, and I'd never felt this feeling before. But when I was stood backstage, not in like a big ego way or big cocky way, because I was like, everyone is fantastic. But as soon as I stepped on that stage, I just knew that I was winning, which was
that's give me chills.
yeah, I just knew. And do you know why? Because Alex Smalls was texting me every single day saying, you tell yourself you are getting that pro card and you are going to get it. And every single day she messaged me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Alex Smalls.
Yeah, it was just that complete change in how you felt about yourself, because maybe there's doubt going into those other shows, and you said those other shows, I get, we all are there backstage and you're looking around and you're like,
Yeah.
you just know, looking at these girls, you're like, their glutes are big, they have the better look, and you just went into that show and backstage you're just like, yeah, I'm way better than these girls, not in the
Well, it's
cocky
mine.
way, but did you have that confidence that you didn't have before?
No, so like not in the sense of like I'm better than these, in the sense that I was so confident in myself that I didn't even need to look at anybody else. So like leaning into the shows, I didn't look who was going, who I was going to be competing against, what other girls was going to be there when I was backstage. I didn't even bother looking at her glutes or looking at her delts. Like it just didn't phase me. Whereas normally I'm like, oh my god, she's amazing, oh god. So I just didn't let it bother me, because I was like, I'm confident that this is going to be what they want today.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it. I'm just chilled.
And it was.
Incredible.
And it was. Literally.
It was
What
amazing.
what did it feel like when they called your name, Phoebe?
I was just happy that there was other UK athletes there, and it was nice to share the stage with them, and I just went and gave them a hug, and I was just so like, that's just like the icing on top of the cake.
Yeah. And obviously Nathan being there as well, and him.
Yes.
So how did it feel, I suppose, joining him in the Pro League as well, getting it together in the same season?
Do you know what though? Before I touch on that, someone actually messaged me on Instagram. I can't remember who or why, but they messaged me saying, how does it feel, Nathan having his pro card and you not? And I was like, that thought has never even crossed my mind ever. But yeah, I didn't really know what they wanted me to say back to that. I think people think that when you're goal driven, you can't be happy for someone else because they've got a goal. Like that, it shouldn't work like that. I think that's another reason why I didn't give up or anything, because some people may have deep down been a little bit jealous because that's what they wanted. But no, you should always be happy. And when you're happy for somebody else, then you should be happy continuing to do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're sorry, Grace, you go.
No, go for it.
No, I just think your successes become their successes and vice versa, don't they, at the end of the day? Like if you can celebrate in them, then your turn will always come. It's just about timing, and ultimately that's all it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Nathan's a situation very similar to yours in that he had feedback, was it, or he came like
Yes.
third in the show previous, you know, so your journeys were very, very similar in that sense, you know. And I'm sure he inspired you massively as well with your decisions to keep on going.
Oh yeah, he told me that I wouldn't be doing any more shows. So because he was so confident, I was like, well, no more shows for me then.
Better get it now.
Yep, not booking anything else.
It's incredible. I think you two are amazing. Like, as such an inspiring couple, and your story from amateur to pro is just amazing. But I guess to kind of wrap this up, we want to hear about what are your current plans in terms of your off season, and just in terms of, I suppose, how your training is going to look over the next few while. How is your improvement phase going to look in terms of how much weight you're gaining, and when are you going to be making your pro debut, isn't it?
Well, I suppose I technically made it because I did do,
yes,
but like my real one after an off season.
Yes,
my real one. So the plans are that I'm currently in a health and recovery phase, because as much as we want to steadily put body fat on, I also understand the importance of hormone regulation, and I am not tied to the scales. If my body needs food and I need to put body fat on to regain my cycle, that is exactly what I'll do. And that's at my forefront of my focus now. And then January, so like, because that'll be like 6 weeks by the end of Christmas, January, I'll have a solid probably 5 months off season, because I can't be going in a deficit really any sooner than that. Well, I could, but I might not make that much progress. Start prep, and we're going to do some shows in America, both me and Nathan. So we're going to head back to stage similar time, probably October, November, maybe September, it depends. But we're both not in a rush to jump on stage a bit before, for the sake of rushing things. So be America. Nathan wants to do the Europa Alicante show. So it would be nice to do that again, myself. So we'll probably do that. Do a little bit of a tour. And training wise, so my new split, because now I'm in the pro ranks and the girls have got quite a lot of muscle, but as much as they got a lot of muscle, it's pretty muscle. Like, it's pretty muscle. Like, it's not forced on muscle. So my training now has changed. My split has changed. So I've got like a glutes and delts day, and then I've got just like a glutes day, and then I've got a glutes functional day. So in that I've got supersets, and also at the end I've got prowler and like Turkish get-ups. And all of these days I do like hanging leg raises and plank as well. And I've also got an upper body, because if I was to do 3 lower body dominant days that are all heavy compound, then potentially my shape of my lower may change, and then I would be more suited to a different class. So you have to make your approach individualized to your kind of, suppose, genetics and what you're trying to fit. So you can't kind of copy every single bikini girl's training split, because they're trying to do what's right for those and to make them fit the best. So that's what I'm going to run with. And obviously upper can go back in. So we'll see how we get on with that, and then just accumulate the volume over the next few weeks, and then obviously pull it back if we need to, but probably try and work in higher volume sets, really. Rather
just
than
try a different approach.
Yeah, rather than just top set back off and see if the look changes by just working in high volume.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's tried and tested sort of leading into show, isn't it? So you might as well have a look at how it works now. And I think, like you say, with the sort of separation between the amateur and the pro ranks now, I suppose it's more about refinement for you.
Yes, well, I do still need to put a lot of muscle on my delts, but I meant glutes. So like I have still got like heavier sets for glutes and for RDLs, but everything else is kind of working in the 12 to 15 and like, or 15 to 20 and 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 working sets. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it changes, and a lot of isolation exercises for the glutes as well. lots of upper glutes, glute meads, and just try and build them up.
Yeah, refine it, sculpt it and stuff. I think it's dead right
Yeah,
in saying like what bikini is now. It is that pretty muscle. And I even spoke to Cal as well when I finished, and I was like, the girls that are at the top of their game, like they're not doing this like top set back of like like slamming themselves for that pendulum set. They are doing more higher volume stuff, more sculpt work, but that
yeah,
is kind of what works. And a lot of the time that we can recover better from it, and we can train
yeah.
more frequently. So it'll be really interesting to see now again this time next year, kind of where your physique is at with that kind of style of training. So different from what you've done before,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's hope that we're not going to regress anyway. We're only going to keep getting better. So it just, hopefully, it just works in our favor. I mean, like I'm kind of at the bottom of the ladder now as well, but like I did hold my own against the pros. Like I didn't go on stage and be like, she's just turned pro. So I'm excited to see what I look like actually having an off season and trying to push things now. I am going against the pros rather than unsure where I fit. So,
And
yeah.
sorry, last thing I want to touch on. Obviously, you have your posing academy. It's called Elite Posing Academy. Did
Yes.
you with your posing, did you have your pro routine planned for long?
Um, well, I made it up just before, but you could say I was kind of practicing bits and bobs before. So like that week coming into it, I actually put a reel on, and the reel has got like so I did like a glute shot and then like a spin. And the reel is that, and it's still like I'm feeling good. But it like just fitted, but you could say that it was like I did actually feel all right. So I was practicing that little spin thing, and when I turned pro, I said to Nathan, I need to put my routine together. So I put it together, and I was like, oh, is this too risky? Is this going to be too risky putting the spin in? And then when I was backstage, I said to Nathan, I'm just going to do it. So because I didn't want to wobble. I mean, we all have a little bit of nerves and stuff, and I was a little bit nervous, but I did it. And in the audience, Nathan goes, yes. And because it was just random, he was like, I bet everyone wondered what I was shouting at, but it's because I didn't fall on the spin. And yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Love the support from him as well. He's amazing. You two guys,
Yeah,
you
no.
both are amazing. Jay, do you have anything else that you want to
Um,
add?
You know what? No, I'm a little bit in awe of it all. Like, not to be fangirling Phoebe, but really, like, it's just incredible. It was incredible to watch. And I remember getting a message off my friend. I hadn't even seen the news on Instagram, and I got a message off one of my girls, and she was like, "Oh my God, she's got it!" And I was running around my room. So, like, I feel, yeah, it was amazing to watch you do it. It was amazing to watch you get there after following your journey for such a long time, and it's that relentless like pursuit for something that you knew in your heart you wanted and you deserved and you belonged, and that sort of dedication to yourself and the commitment to yourself, and here you are, a pro.
You know what? I
IFBB
was just
pro.
thinking it was almost more inspiring than just watching Jennifer Dory like win the Olympia, because I feel like everybody really had connected with you and your journey, and you and your pro card was almost bigger than Jennifer Dory wins the Olympia, like how much it meant to everybody else and how inspiring it was, knowing, I suppose, all the different the setbacks. And yeah, your mindset as an athlete is so inspiring, and it's something that I really took with me on my competing season, and I'll be taking it with me when I compete next again. You're an inspiration to all of us amateurs out there. It's amazing.
Well, one day we'll all be on the pro stage together, because if you don't try and you don't give up, then you get what you kind of want, and whatever you want to achieve, you can achieve.
100%.
Absolutely.
Feel inspired.
Yes. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this podcast and took some value from it. Phoebe, do you want to let the listeners know where they can find you and your posing, give them all the details, and your coaching as well, obviously?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram. So my handle is at Phoebe Goodwin 1, and that's my personal page. Or my posing one is at the Elite Posing Academy. I think it's or it might just be Elite Posing Academy _ and my coaching is at Good Style Coaching. So that's where you can find me. Or I've got a YouTube as well, Phoebe Goodwin.
Yes,
but
get back on the YouTube.
I know, but I've cracked my camera on my phone.
Oh, I've done that.
So I need to get it fixed. But I was using a vlogging camera, and that's been in Curry's, being repaired since June. They've had it 6 months.
Okay, well, get it back and get back on the vlogs, because we all want to follow your
I will be.
journey.
I will be.
The pro debut.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on, Phoebe, and sharing your journey. And Jade, do you want to wrap up the podcast?
Yeah, no, huge thank you to Phoebe. And as always, guys, if you can share, like, subscribe, follow the podcast. And as always, if you've got anything that you want us to cover in particular, then you can drop us a message. But thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys. Catch you in the next one.